Welcome in to Bearing Up at Night. I never know how loud to be because right here it is quiet. So like very quiet. We just skipped pretty bad. But anyway, I'm going to try to keep the further the camera is, that way the better my internet is for whatever reason. So welcome to Bearing Up at Night. This is part 2 of a series we have going on right now. 5 steps, if you will. They can be steps, they can be independent of each other. Ways to become a better encourager. It's my path to being a better encourager. Last week, what we did, take that off, I'm sweating. Last week, what we did was step number 1, or number 5 on the list, if you will. And that is, practice humility. And we talked a lot about that. So go back and watch that if you missed that. Tonight, we're going to be doing step number 2. And in step number 2, we move externally. Step number 1, we were focusing internally. I'm eating ice cream, by the way. Bluebell is not a sponsor, but this is just a really good ice cream. So we're going to move externally with our path to being an encourager. So we need to have humility. The second thing is we need to look for people or for someone who is poorer than we are. And I don't necessarily mean physically, monetarily. It can, but that's not really what I'm getting at here. Looking for someone poorer than you is more about looking for someone who's worse off than you. Okay. It is really easy to encourage somebody who has got it all together. It's really easy to encourage somebody who's doing the right things. Hey, you're doing good. Well, yeah, everybody can encourage that. What it becomes more difficult when we have somebody who is worse off than us in a certain area of their life, spiritually, emotionally, physically. And the phrase, there's always a bigger fish, can't be more true than, it's when you're talking about your spiritual walk. There's always somebody who's better. There's always somebody who's 1 or 2 steps further down their spiritual walk than you are. And there's always somebody who's 1 or 2 steps behind in their spiritual walk from where you are. Or longer, obviously. So, but when we become encouragers, when we strive to be an encourager, pull the people behind us with us. Example, I love Wilderness Trek. I don't know where they are right now. I think they're over there in that box. But I went 4 years, every year of high school, and we climbed a mountain in Colorado. 13ers, 14ers. We summited, of the 4 years, I believe I summited twice. One of the years, we were first going, and there was always a group who lagged behind. Every single time we would break, we would start together, lag behind. And we got to the point, our guides were trying to let us figure it out. And after about half the day, on the long hike day, they said, let's switch it up. If you were in the back, you have to be in the front. And there was 1 or 2 people who were obviously furthest behind every single time. They have to be in the front. And not only do they have to be in the front, but they cannot be passed. They can't be passed. You're not allowed to pass them. So we've all got to walk in this line. And it became more about pushing and pulling the people who were behind us. The people who were slower, the people who were physically unable to do some of the things that a lot of us were. And we summited that mountain. We pushed and pulled, and the people who were behind us, we put in front of us. The people who were lagging behind, we brought them to the front. And I believe that's what Christ calls us to do with our relationships. And I feel like that kind of got long-winded, maybe even a little boring. But that story is just really how a physical example, a visual example of what Christ wants us to do as we encourage. Bring people with us, pull them forward, bring them ahead, put them in front of us, and don't pass them back until they can do it on their own. Look for somebody poorer than you. There's always, always, always somebody who's worse off. There's always somebody who is going to be needing help in an area that you've already, that's why you don't need help there anymore. I think it's interesting that we're so externally focused on the wrong people. And in the wrong way. Maybe that's what I should say. Because I don't want to, this is not about berating people. It's not about saying, well, you should be better. It's not what Christ is about. Christ did not establish a church of we're better, and unless you're a part of me, unless you're part of this group, you're better. Christ established a church of you need to be a part of me, Christ. And that's all that matters. We want to pull people with us. We don't want to push people away from Christ by our attitude. All right. I've got a lot of stories on that. Someday maybe you'll get to hear them. But tonight is not the night. Wow. What an incredible day. What an incredible week this has been. I was glad to see Zach back this week. He jumped on with a couple of videos. We got to see his routine. So it was a lot of fun. I'm really glad. I'm really glad for this avenue of encouragement for the handful of people that get to see it. I love you, and I thank you for watching tonight. And stay tuned. Season 3 coming soon. I hope you'll have a good night.